right, so welcome back to the program. I am here with Mike Vanderberg of the Flatlanders group out in Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan in Canada. He recently hosted a competition, and he's going to give us a breakdown of some of those details. Mike, how are you doing today?
Good, Solly. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate having you on. Can you tell us about what your organization is? And we'll just start there.
Okay, so we have started our club here, Team Red Goat Training Center. Obviously, we have a kettlebell team. We got into it a few years ago and enjoy the sport, and have hosted some competitions already, but we have the Flatlanders that we host here every year. This year, what we decided to do is we've put together the National Development Camps and an organization that encompasses Flatlanders, and it's for lifters of kettlebell sport of any type of lifter, whether they're in whatever federation they're in or whatever program they're working with. It's an open league for lifters that we're starting, and we had our first event on the weekend. Like you said, the Flatlanders Open here in Moose Jaw. It was great. We had a small lifting group, but we decided to go ahead with it, and we thought that it was a really good competition. And we had lifters from BC, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. So I thought it was a pretty successful event for NDC.
Awesome. Mike, can you tell our listeners a little bit more about you, how you fit into the kettlebell culture, how you got into it, and maybe what's kind of driving you to stay engaged with it right now, and a little bit more about how the NDC maybe differs from the existing body of kind of kettlebell authority that we kind of have now.
Oh, sure. So I got into it a couple of years ago. Mandy Barco was a client of mine, and I'd never heard of the sport, and she got interested in it. So I started working with Mandy on it, and I guess almost probably 2.5, 3 years ago now, then just started following it and really, really enjoyed it. And as an owner of a training facility, it was just something different. We have power lifters in our gym and Olympic lifters, and kettlebell just became something that I became engaged with, and it's just a sport that I think is just great for anybody. What I like about it is it doesn't matter what body type you are, how old you are, age, it doesn't matter. You can enjoy doing the sport. And I was a professional hockey player, and when I retired, you kind of lose that competitive edge or that training edge. And this is something that I enjoyed doing, and it gave me a focus back into the sport. So I really enjoyed it. My time here in the kettlebell sport, even though it was short, I've always been involved in sport in some way, in business, and I had some talks with some people around, and just felt like the lifters were getting undervalued, and the sport wasn't developing the way that I thought it could develop and reach different demographics. So and I'd mentioned to you a couple, year and a half ago about this type of thing, and it had been something that I've been thinking about, and I think a lot of lifters have been thinking about it. So what we decided to do is we put together a league, and it's a National Development Competition League, but it's called NDC for short, and we've branded it the Lifters League. And the whole purpose of the league is to develop and get funding for athletes that are interested in the sport, and who want to continue to lift at a different or higher level. So
how do you go about doing that exactly?
Well, the way we've done it, Sully, is it's set up into a development sets, first-timer sets or lower sets, and then we've made the league partially into an intermediate league and a professional league. So at any level you can compete, and we use the money that is generated through the event, and it goes back to the lifters to help with training or anything to do with kettlebell in the form of prize money. So it gets expensive. The sport is relatively cheap, as you know, but it gets expensive when you're traveling and you want to be better. And part of the thing that I saw over the last 2 years is that our top lifters in Canada, they aren't getting the competition they need to compete at the international level. So if they go to Worlds, it might be a little bit harder for them to compete at that level. Although we have really great lifters in Canada, and I think we do very well. I think if anytime you want to do well on the world stage, you need good competition. So we've differed. Our system is a little bit different. The competitions are open weight classes, and it's more gauged on bells than it is on body weight. And now we have a committee together. It consists of not only myself and my assistant Tanya, but we've brought in other kettlebell lifters to kind of give us advice, and we're going to keep tweaking the league as it goes and create more stops. So right now, Flatlanders was officially the first event, but last year we did test out the concept at Carissa's event there at West Shore Open, and then she's going to host another event here in November. So these will be our unofficial events for the league. And then we have developed policies going forward for the league to start in 2019 that will hopefully have 6 stops for lifters to have competitive events at, and hopefully win some prize money and sponsorships.
Is there something similar to this in other sports that you've worked with?
There is. Every other sport does have these types of things. I guess the best way that you could look at this is right now, CrossFit has kind of gone to this way with more. They have their high profile events, but they have a lot of smaller events as well.
Yeah, it seems like that they're putting a lot more focus into that, especially with some of the other countries outside of the U.S. and Canada.
Right. Yeah. And for us, I think if we want our top lifters to be able to continue in the sport and get better, they have to have better competition nationally, and then as well, they got to be able to get funding. So the way the league will be set up is you'll register to be part of the league. You don't have to do the 6 stops that are in the league, but all the league 6 stops will all be the same. We've put together a competition guide, and basically every competition, we take our platforms, we take, everything is an NDC type background. The hosts actually run the event. We just support it through the registration, all that sort of stuff. And the prize money, we have minimum prize money, but we can maximize prize money as well. And then we also have every event. Right now we have a $1,000 sponsorship for the athlete of the event. So that's voted on by a committee. And, this past event, Kim Goebel from PA Core got the $1,000 sponsorship. He had a great event. He lifted 24s. It kind of came out of nowhere in the last few months and got into 24s, and just really had a good event, a solid event. And it doesn't mean he was the best lifter or top guy, but he's someone that we felt could, benefit for Canada, lifting and, help him out with the sponsorship. So I think it was good that way. You kind of get guys that are into the sport, but have to work full time as well. So this helps with them pay for their training or whatnot. But back to the league, the league stops will be so that money generated as you register for the league, and every event there's prize money, but you also get a point system, and then the finals you get your ranking based on your point system. And so doesn't mean if you're in the lowest rank. If you only attended one event and had low points and you were ranked lower, it doesn't mean you can't win the final event. It just means that it's going to be harder for you to win that final event. So we're trying to encourage people to do more stops. And right now it's finding the gyms that fit with us to host these stops and be where the lifters are at.
It would probably be a lot easier if we weren't so spread out in Canada. I think that's going to be one of the biggest drawbacks, especially particularly when you think about the European countries who've traditionally lifted kettlebells. They're much closer together, much smaller countries. And so when you've got, that kind of chatter about, a subgroup sport, kind of like what we have, you're going to bump into relatively more of those people as opposed to in Canada where we're just spread so much further apart.
Right.
So,
yeah, no, exactly. And we've talked about that, Sully, and we talked about it a lot this weekend. My team itself, we know there's only going to be one stop in Saskatchewan, and there's probably going to be, 4 in BC and maybe 1 in Alberta if we're lucky. So we're going to have to travel. But our lifters that, want to get better, we've come up with ways that we think we can make it work to do the traveling. And eventually, if this is a concept that works, and, I think there's possibilities all over the place that how we can make this work better. The other thing is we've talked about making it, you make it a weekend event as well, where we always want to have some sort of seminar for first-time lifters tied into the event, and we also want to, if we can encourage people to do more lifts, either biathlons or do 3 events, then maybe you have a Friday night lift instead of lifting all events on Saturday or something like that. So we've kind of been starting to work at ideas that how we can make this, a little bit better for everybody. But definitely with all the lifters being closer on the West Coast, we know in Saskatchewan we're going to have to travel.
Yeah. And it seemed like for me that oftentimes the people who are willing to make the trips are the people who have been, consistently coming year after year. They're the established lifters. And for that reason, it's that much more challenging to get first-time lifters out to not even just higher caliber competitions, but even just mid-tier competitions. Right. As for the league, so you're going to have several stops throughout the year. Now, all these 6 stops that we just talked about, are they somewhat like level playing field in terms of their caliber? Like you said, you had things divided into intermediary and advanced kind of levels. Can you explain that a bit more?
Yeah, so what we do, and we just had a meeting Friday night to change the rules or change the competition guide. And I think that's the one thing that we've been working the hardest on is trying to make sure that it's fair for everybody. So after each event when we're planning an event, we have lots of sit downs and feedback on how we're going to make this more beneficial. So what we decided to do is we went what we consider pro now in our league will be 32 bell for men, 28 bell for men, and 24 bell for men. And then that prize money will be tiered. So first place in a 32 kg event, first place is $500, and then everything's tiered down from there. In the female for pro, we went 24 and 20s, and again the prize money gets tiered from that perspective. And then we also went into the pro for females. We went into double 16s, and the feedback was that double 16s is a tough event for females. It gives more people a reason to kind of drive to do double 16s, but a single arm event in 16s is considered intermediate. A single arm event for 20 in men's I believe is intermediate as well. So then the intermediate is still prize money. It's just that what we're trying to do is encourage our best lifters to push themselves and become, better lifters on the world scene as well. And then we have the development sets. So for men, it's 12 and 16s, and for women, it's 8s and 12s, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then there's some areas in there where it's 1 arm and 2 arms. So your 2 arm obviously gets bumped up into a intermediate category sort of thing. So, and we just changed that again on Friday night, on the night before the competition. It didn't take effect in this competition, but it will take effect in Victoria in November. And then we took a look after the competition and got some feedback from the lifters and where we thought that it could be more competitive. So again, what we're trying to do is entice people to come to these events, do multiple lifts, and do it at a high level, right? For our better lifters. Our younger lifters, we want them on the platform. We're not trying to entice them with money. What we're trying to do is entice them to get to those higher levels. And so I think the feedback we got on Saturday was really good about the league and about the concept of the league. Of course, we're open, and we've said this as a committee, we're open to to tweaking it and making it better. What we put in place right now may not be the same, or everybody may not feel that way in a year or 2 years, and then split. And then one of the things, for example, right now we have the open weight class, Sully, and the reason we went with the open weight class is just to get more people competing at that bell weight on the platforms, versus you go to some events and you're basically competing by yourself because you're in your own weight group. Well, yes, you're always competing against your own number, but at the same time, there's still something about being on the platform, competing against someone in your group. So if it got popular and we started to go, we are open to splitting, above a weight group and below a weight group kind of thing. So, but we always want to have enough competitors. One of the pet peeves that I watch on some of the competitions is, the same lifters are lifting their same weight class and belt class, but they're not competing against each other. So without competition, we don't get better. So that's kind of one of the things that we're trying to kind of figure out a way to get more competition for our lifters. But at the same time, we're not taking away from any federation or what they're doing. To me, it doesn't really matter. What we're doing is for the lifters. It's nothing else. It's not personal. I'm not making any money from it. And, the lifters are making the money, and it's about getting those people better. So when you're talking about development, everybody always talks about development, but what are you really doing for development?
Was it important for you guys to keep the single arm lifts? This is a topic that's kind of a little hot right now, because we're also seeing other organizations that have just completely dropped it, like the OKC.
Yeah,
so,
we talked about this.
And that might be something that'll change in the future for you guys, just for practicality's sake, but what was the feedback
absolutely.
like on that?
Well, we actually had a good discussion about this on Friday. I'm a firm believer that one-arm events are going to be dropped by everybody here pretty soon. I like doing one-arm events, obviously, but my opinion, and Charlie, had a great take on it, and my opinion is that one-arm events, other than doing a biathlon with having the snatch, is going to be dropped by the wayside. And we're open to following what the trends are. If people aren't doing one-arm events or doing more biathlon, and I really think, Sully, and I could be out to lunch on this because I'm new to the sport, but my what I've been following in trends is that more people are going to start doing biathlons and triathlons. The sport's just evolving, and as athletes always want to be pushed. So the days of kind of going and doing one event, to me, I think are also kind of falling by the wayside, especially even our groups that are starting here in Saskatchewan. It's, and as a coach of my team, I am pushing people to do 2 events all the time. And I think it just makes you for a better lifter overall. But I agree. I think, and that's what I stated in our meeting, is that I think eventually one-arm events are going to be fall by the wayside.
One option that could prove useful is, back in the day when the WKC were still doing their thing, they had like a strong sport kind of take on in their competitions, where you would use the heavier bells and potentially do the single arm lift. So there's a classic video of Ivan Denisov doing 48 kg one arm jerk.
Right.
So do you think that would be something that you guys would be interested in doing, incorporating like that kind of strong sport element to it?
I think so. I think that
almost like the exhibition lifts, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that that's the whole thing, and eventually, if we can get the league going to where we think it is, because I think that lifters, once they come and do an event, just are going to like it. But, one of the things we talked about is right now we're getting a format down that we think is going to be efficient and be able to help gyms host events, right? So the support that they get to host an event and kind of the guidance, and then we start to build out from there. What are lifters wanting to to do? Do they want to come and do a triathlon? Do they want to do, an exhibition for strong, kettlebell strong stuff? Do they want to do more two-arm stuff like that? So I think eventually, and hopefully this will always stay true, because it's one of the things that we wanted when we started this, is that this league will be what the lifters want, and it'll follow the trends that the lifters want, because the lifters are the ones that are going to be getting ready to go to world events. So we are purposely setting our schedule up so it doesn't affect the Canadian nationals, it doesn't affect U.S. nationals, it doesn't affect OKC worlds and things like that, right? So what we're trying to do is get competitive events and a league that can help people do multiple events without having to travel long distances and that sort of thing. So I think it's something that's going to just complement our lifters, or any lifter in North America, or even if Europeans want to come over, that will complement them on what they're trying to do.
So does the NDC kind of fit into a provincial or national type of hierarchy, or is this strictly something that's just like how you have the NHL, and that's like a professional league, but then you also have national or world level hockey, which is more centered around the traditional or the in terms of Canada, the Canadian sports stream, where it's kind of like a different avenue? Our vision for the league, Sully, would be that it'd be a professional league eventually, with of course always wanting the amateur and the development sets in there. But our thing is if we're going to help the sport grow, we need to put a vehicle in place that our top athletes can do that in. And I think the way that I looked at it, or when I've set it up, we want a professional league for our lifters. We don't want to take away from them being able to go to any of the nationals or any of the worlds that they want to go to, just like we do in hockey. I mean, obviously my background is in hockey, and I coached in world championships with different countries and with Canada. And, we take the best players from their hockey teams and make Canadian teams. Well, what we want to do is same thing here. We want to make the best lifters, Canada's best lifters, and whether we consider them pro, which obviously our definition of pro is going to be different than the CKA or the AKA, and that's fine. But to me, it's a league that develops the best lifters. So, and they get rewarded for developing. You know how hard it is to train, and you don't have nothing to train for. This gives a reason for people to go and train and do their best. Sometimes you're going to have a good event, sometimes you're not. That's just the way it is. But at least you're going to have a chance to get back on the platform, a few months later, and try and gain your rankings back or whatever like that. So I think the competitive part of it, for me, from the league standpoint, I think if you get a professional league going, it's just going to benefit anybody that wants to go on the world stage. Mm-hmm. So this is more of almost like that. Well, I mean, you're talking about developing already professional lifters, and you talked a little bit about also setting the stage for beginners.
Right.
And I'm just trying to figure out where you feel like now this is very much still a perennial thing, much like Worlds and all that stuff. Yep. But so it's not quite linear in that, you go to the NDC to develop yourself, and that prepares you for nationals or worlds. Right. Or is it the other way around, where you have these established lifters, and then they're like, well, I need something else or something different, something to push me a little bit different, and so I'm going to go to the NDC. Where does it fit nicely in somewhere in there, or is it kind of for both?
No, well, I think it does fit nicely in there. I think our best lifters can get better. Right. And so they can compete at a higher level against, the Russians or the Europeans, right, when they go to a world event, or if they choose to go to a world event. The development, where the development comes in, is for the sport in general. Mm-hmm. So our development sets are 5 minutes, and you can do a 10-minute development set. You're not getting judged on, trying to win money, right? You're getting judged on performance. You know how it is, and we've all had lifters, getting them on the platform the first time, convincing them that it's not a bad thing, that it's not as scary as you think, and all that sort of thing. So what we do is we have the component of both. And our hope is, and I think we saw it this weekend, is that our 5-minute sets were just as competitive for those first timers, and took a lot of their fears away. And in this environment, when you have your pro lifters, or we had a couple of Canada's best here, obviously with Carissa and Charlie, who I think are just unbelievable lifters. When we missed you and Rachel, who I also consider some of our best lifters, but for our young people to see that and see the effort that they put in, it was great. And then, we have the team in PA that, they had a good chunk of lifters here. And what was neat for them is that they got to see that, people were doing multiple lifts, right? So now all of a sudden it opens their eyes a little bit more. Okay, I'm going to go to Victoria. Now I'm going to try 2 lifts instead of 1 lift, right? And now everybody's starting to talk a little bit. It was a nice, relaxed atmosphere, obviously, because you're not just going for ranks. It's like going out for a nice golf game. And yes, you're playing against somebody, but at the same time, you're trying to beat your own record. And what we saw here is a lot of our lifters here were judging it because they are going to Edmonton for CKA Nationals, right? So the ability to give them feedback and saying, okay, I might have let you away with, something here, but be careful with that. If it's going to be your first Nationals, they're going to be harder on you there, right? So from a development standpoint, I thought it worked really, really good. And then also the interaction. When you get, young lifters, how this community is, and there's a great group within this community that I just enjoy talking to. And so for me, it's getting to see those guys and talk to them and meet first-time lifters and that sort of thing, and put on a good show. Each stop, hopefully we can get new lifters to it. We have a couple lifters here in Moose Jaw that didn't lift in our event, but came and watched it and volunteered at it, and now have committed to go to Carissa's event in Victoria. So to me, that's a win, right? Even though they didn't lift at my event, hey, we're going to go out to Victoria and we're going to give it a go out there. So that's the great thing about trying to get someone on the platform.
Yeah. Well, one of those things that, as I learned being a coach, that there are many ways that you can offer something valuable to your people, and they don't necessarily have to be up there and lift. Just giving them some form of job, like with some of my lifters, I had them judge sets that are in house and stuff like that. Anything that you can do to broaden those horizons. Are you guys going to keep records of sets?
We are. So what we talked about is we are doing a league website, and on that league website, because we do have a chuckle about records. I mean, every federation has its record. Everything has its records.
What are some of the problems with having the records in the first place? Obviously, there's standards, right? So maybe that comes first in this discussion. Yeah.
To me, it's standards, right? So, and I feel like, we have a pretty high standard in Western Canada. Any of the events I've been at, whether it's yours or, in Victoria or, even nationals, right? We have a pretty high standard. I watch a lot of competitions online, and their standards are different than ours. So to me, I look at those things and I go, well, there's arguments all over the place, and I don't really pay attention to much arguments. I kind of do what I want to do. But I think that for us, from a league perspective, if you're going to have a league, then there's standards in the league. And I think we can have more consistency across our league than we had before. Our judging system's a little bit different. So, our standards are there. They're definitely there for our good lifters. And then, obviously with our development lifters, we have a little bit more leeway where we can use it as more of a teaching tool than actually hammering them down on stuff. But as long as generally they're lifting the way that they should be lifting, then I think that's appropriate. But our higher lifters, obviously they're going to set the standards, and we are going to keep records. So, 20 two-arm long cycle for female. It'll be ranked in the on the website page, and this is the standard. So at this event, wherever it is, so-and-so did this many number, and that's the rank. So, and they'll be ranked down below that as well. So the way that I envision is not only your point system will be on there, but where every lifter kind of qualified in every event, right? So let's say Rachel lifts 20 doubles and, for argument's sake, gets 70, and my girl Mandy lifts doubles and she gets 68. Well, if Rachel's the standard on the website, and then still Mandy gets lifted at 68. If another girl comes in and lifted at 68, boom. So then people can get on the website and see where the league is at and how they would fare up in our league. And hopefully what that does is encourages people to come and join our league. But yes, this is the standard. This is the best female that at this time that lifted, and hopefully someone beats that, is always pushing towards those. So we will put that on the website as we discussed on Friday, and then also the point system will be on the website as well, upcoming events, all that sort of thing.
Are you guys going to have a points card like Save on Foods?
Well, I'll do whatever.
You should have the point system integrated with the kickback system.
Yeah. We need that. I'll take anything for marketing at this point.
Fair enough.
But what I was saying is our judging system's a little bit different, Sully. So what we went to is, and people are going to argue this all day long, and I don't really care, but this is what I feel is the best. We have a one judge system at each platform, but each platform is videotaped. So because it is a competition for our higher lifters and for money, I believe it's important to tape those sets. There's a 5-minute grace period after each set. So let's say you lift,
so
Sully.
It can be contested type thing?
It can be contested, yeah. So let's say and there's a head judge at every event that isn't tied to the actual thing, right? We name the head judge prior. Mm-hmm. That head judge has the final say. So, and I explained to the lifters on Saturday, it's not a bad thing if you think you got 10 reps more and you go to the judge and you just ask, where were the no counts, and you aren't satisfied, or you and your coach aren't satisfied. You have 5 minutes, and I told the lifters, it's not, we're not going to take it against hard feelings or anything like that. It's a competition. So you have 5 minutes after your set. If you contest it, then the head judge takes the film. The head judge can bring in another counter if they want, or if they want to do it on their own, that's completely up to them. And they review your set. Mm-hmm. And if they get a different number and it's higher, then that's the number you're awarded. So what we think is just a fairness that it goes across, right? So it's just a way to fall back and support our lifters at the same time, because sometimes, judges do make mistakes and that sort of thing. And when we're talking about competitive or competing for money, sometimes there's a difference between first place money and third place money, right? So we just put a safe method in. Now this weekend we had nobody contested their numbers, and so that was good. And I don't think it's going to be an ongoing practice. I think that our best lifters know generally how they're going to do, and if in competition they feel like they didn't get their numbers, then they have a system to go there and check it.
Is there a penalty involved if the score isn't any different, or?
No penalty involved. No, it's again, and what I explained to the lifters is it's a way to assure that we're getting the most out of the lift. So, and we're all human and we all make mistakes. So, a judge could be having an off 2 seconds or 10 seconds or 20 seconds and miss one or two or whatever, or maybe they didn't think you were maybe you didn't double dip well enough or whatever. The head judge makes that ruling, and that's the final. So, but at least it's a way to give a lifter a peace of mind. There's nothing worse than lifting, losing, and then not knowing why.
Yeah. I think one of the best things that's going to come out of this is, at the very least, what's happening here is that we're getting more competitions in Canada on the calendar. And one thing that I spoke to Linda about, for those listeners who don't know who I'm talking about, Linda Gilmore, she's one of the CKA reps, was that, we agreed that we don't think it's really appropriate for first-time lifters to lift at nationals. Nationals is more of like almost an invitational event, so to speak, or there needs to be some form of qualifying, set of criteria that where you can compete at nationals on that national stage. Because
I agree with that, by the way, Saul. I agree. And, even when we started our group, our first contest was nationals. Well, to me, I don't think that's appropriate to go to nationals.
But it's difficult because, what choice do we have, right? There's just not enough competitions.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No. And I think this is a good option for a lot of first-time lifters. And like I said, the 6 stops gives you 6 more opportunities to get on the platform before you hit a national or world stage.
Absolutely. So you guys held a workshop or a seminar following your competition?
We did. We opened a free workshop. Charlie and Carissa put on a free workshop. So NDC basically provided a free workshop for everybody that wanted to attend. We had 11 people attend. I think it was great. I think it's something that we want to continue to do as part of our development, and use some of our best lifters in Canada to help promote the sport and just give a different feedback. And for me, some of my lifters were there, and it's just great for them to hear it from, two of Canada's best lifters, technique wise, or what they do and that sort of thing.
Was there a specific demographic?
No, we open it up to anybody. And I invited people out of my training center that are interested in kettlebells, that have never done kettlebells, maybe come and just watch and learn. And then we had, people that had been in our club for a month or two. And then we had, Mandy, who's our longest running competitor, and she was there. So it's really open to anybody. But again, what I'm trying to say to people is, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing the sport, or you're always learning, and it's great to learn from anybody, right? So one of the best things I like about going to the competitions, and a lot of times I haven't been lifting lately, but it's just nice to go and talk to people and find out a little more things here and there, right? And it's interesting just to hear what other people are doing training wise and how we can all get better doing it. And I think, in any sport, some of the best successes I've had is just sitting and talking with other athletes. And now as a trainer, and I work with a lot of athletes, and I work with a lot of female athletes, it's just finding out what other trainers are doing with female athletes, right? So I think, again, it's part of the learning process, but I think it's something that NDC has to do to each club. And that's what we're trying to develop in this league, is that every time we have a stop at a gym or a training center or whatever, that NDC is giving something back. So Kettlebell Kings has come on as a sponsor, and we have some things in the works with them and a few other sponsors that, okay, this is a gym that's going to be hosting a league event every year. So, there's things that we can give to that gym to help them out as well. And one of the things is a seminar, and, of course, we want to start working on equipment deals and stuff like that, right? So I think that's part of helping develop the sport, not just the lifters, but the facilities that can help generate better lifters. And, we had talks with Amy from Medicine Hat. There's not a lot of lifters in Medicine Hat. They want to get something going there, and their gym would like to get something going, but they need that help to get going as well. So as part of the league, I think that's something we have to do.
Okay. And is that opportunity built into the whole reward system or prize system, you think? Is that how you're kind of approaching that?
Yes. So not only are we giving out the sponsorships from the league, we want to the money that's generated from the league, again, will go back into the league. So you pay your registration for the league. That entitles you to be part of the league, into the all events or whatever. Then you still pay your registration fee for the events, but the league registration, what that does is that goes back into all the lifters, right, and all the clubs that are hosting events and that sort of thing. So same as sponsorship money. We're working on getting sponsors, but obviously the more numbers we can get, the more gyms we can get involved in hosting a league stop, the better demographics we can get. Sponsors are interested. And that's one thing that, I've talked about this for a while, and it's been to a brick wall sometimes, but sponsors are excited about kettlebell sport. I mean, you think of it from spending money on demographics. It hits every demographic there is. So, from any company that's interested in sponsoring this league and growing with this league, there's a lot of interest there. But we have to put some fundamental things in place, in order to get that money.
Yeah, I've even had a great working relationship with my local gym outfitter, Alloyd.
Yeah.
They've helped us out with good deals. We had to buy a whole bunch of new kettlebells for our competition, and he gave me an extra discount on that. And it's been, it's always been great, and that's one of those things that I don't take for granted. Tell me a little bit about more about your ongoing relationship with Kettlebell Kings. How did that start? Did you approach them? Did they approach you? And how did you market what you're doing to them and that sort of thing?
Well, they've been actually outstanding, and they were, I contacted a couple kettlebell companies, and Kings was the ones that kind of we clicked with, and they became a sponsor of our team and our training center, and it's been a great relationship. But Jay down at Kettlebell Kings has been good. I mean, obviously it was a good fit for them. They're trying to expand into Canada and get more sales in Canada, but we had talked well over a year ago, and Kettlebell Kings has the exact same philosophy as we do, Sully, and they want to see the sport grow, obviously, from their perspective, and they don't really care about what organization is, what federation it is, blah blah blah, right? They're in it for the sport. They want to see the sport grow. They love the sport.
Did they expand on how they got into it with you, and what's sort of fueling their enthusiasm about it?
Well, they want to. Obviously, we talked about this league thing a year and a half ago for them, and they want to get more into that kind of concept as well. They really do. My conversations with Jay is they really do feel like kettlebells could become, kind of a spin-off sport of CrossFit, as far as how people feel about CrossFit and the sport of CrossFit, right? I think CrossFit is a great sport. I don't do it. And I wouldn't do it, but I think as a sport, it's a challenging sport. I think kettlebells is the same thing. I think that it can become a very good sport for people. I've seen it right now in my training center. Mainstream sports I don't get the most mainstream athletes in here anymore. I get athletes that are kind of in sports that are outside the box, and I love it. I think kettlebells is one of it. And I think Kings is ready to make a move forward with a league. And it was very simple. They did nationals for us last year. We worked out a great deal with our bells for nationals, and I just gave them a call and said, "Hey, we decided to go ahead with this league. We want a bell sponsor." And it was like, "Yeah, that's good. We'll do it." Like, it wasn't even hard. It was like, we want to be part of it and keep us informed as it grows and how we're doing, and we can expand our role in it. And so right now it's just been a pretty basic, we'll sponsor whatever you guys want to do and how you want to do it, and then let's grow together and see if we can grow a league that hopefully one day the vision would be that you could have events in all over North America, right? And and they want to be part of that.
Do you have any ongoing relationships with any of the provincial bodies? So, for example, in September, I'll be running a workshop as part of the NCCP's National Coaching Week. So that's going to be a free kind of 90-minute workshop where I'll go over some of the basics and fundamentals, almost just like a crash course in kettlebell sport. So that's something I have going with them. Is there anything that you guys are working on like that, or are you guys just pretty much just kind of autonomous in terms of how you're delivering the development?
Well, right now we're delivering it the best way we can, and seminars, obviously, and I think what you're doing is great. I have had talks in the past, and I'm not going to go into my thoughts on it, but I've had talks, our provincial body here would be very open to the kettlebell sport. Unfortunately, I think there's forces in play on a national level that stop the ability to grow the sport. And so that's my own personal thing, but I think that as the league grows, and if we can become a little bit more of a force to help promote the sport, then I think we can do more things. And I think
in the same way that how I approach my business, if I try and do the best things possible for my clients, then I'll succeed in my business. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at with the lifters. Yeah. If you go out of your way to make sure that the lifters are getting what they need, then the legitimacy will be built in.
Absolutely, and the thing is that I'm not going to sit here and say we're the our club, or anybody in our club or anybody in our league is the fourth most expert on the sport. I think there's a ton of great people out there that are knowledgeable of the sport. I think what our league does. Well,
I guess that's the difference between talking the talk and walking the walk, right?
Right, and I think that our league is just exactly what you're gonna end up seeing it being, is that we're gonna push and drive the sport forward to make it better for people who enjoy the sport, and we're gonna help grow the sport. And I truly believe that, and I wouldn't put my money into it if I didn't think that I could do something beneficial for lifters and for this sport. And I think there's so much potential in it. That's the part that's frustrating to me is, and once people get into the sport, whether they do it full time or not, or it's just recreational, the benefits of it are so unbelievable. To me, the first time I did an event, it was just a mind blowing to me, the community and how people could talk and share ideas. I came from a background where it was all about competition and the cutthroat business, and this is totally different. And I just fell in love with that part of the sport. And for me to give back to it, it's a little bit challenging, but at the same time, I think there's great people that can benefit from it, and it's just another sport that's going to develop in Canada.
Do you think it could eventually be in jeopardy of going that cutthroat way? Do you think there's something that could go wrong? I mean, we could also just even look at something that's maybe not specifically what we're just talking about there, but like if we look at Europe, and there are some things that I know some people here disagree with the way that certain things are run in Europe. There's like an old way of doing things and that sort of thing.
But Europe's like that. I mean, I dealt with Russians and I've dealt with all Europeans in different sports, and it's no different in this sport. But the thing is that you go the way that you want to do it, and if you're doing it right, Sully, if you're looking within, and you're not looking at what everybody else is doing, then people will say, you know what, I'd rather do it and join these guys. And hey, but to me, I watch every federation. I don't really give a shit what anybody else is doing. I care about what we're going to do, and we're going to do the best job for our lifters and to develop the sport. And if people don't like it, people don't like it, and that's just the way it is. And if I cared about what people thought of me, I wouldn't have left the house when I was 18 years old. So I think that this is the way that I see it going. And by no means is it, I got this thing going, but now I've handed it over to the committee. So, it's not Mike Vandenberg's way of doing things. It's the lifters. It's the committee. Mm-hmm. Our office will facilitate it. We'll do the registrations. We'll do all the administration work. But hey, the bottom line is that we're trying to put a league together that is beneficial for the lifters in Canada or in North America if they choose to join us.
Mike, I appreciate you going through the ins and outs of the NDC for me. Before I let you go, let's bring it back down to a local level, and can you just describe to me how Team Red Goat has been going, and how the Kettlebell Club itself, how that's grown over the years and how that's been going.
Oh, it's been great. We've been up to 25 members. Right now, we're consistently at about 15. We have 7 or 8 that are always moving forward and going to different competitions, and then we have a group that just enjoy it. It's funny because we are a gym that lifts a lot here, and so even other lifters are finding that kettlebells are a benefit. Like I said, our club is relatively new. We started at the same time as PA, but we have attended. We've had Taylor and Mandy have both gone to the Worlds, which is very good. And I think that Taylor Carl has a lot of potential if she continues to be in the sport. I think Mandy Barco has a lot of potential if she continues in the sport. And now we're getting a lot younger lifters who are interested in it and see it as an avenue to stay competitive. We have ladies that are in their 60s now that have joined and are getting their competitive spirit back. Georgina Gadd did her first event, and now she's fired up to go to nationals and do some doubles there, and maybe compete in that veteran category. So I'm pretty happy with it. We meet 3 times a week. We have team workouts every Sunday. We try to get together as a mandatory workout, and then we program for them year round, and depending on what competitions they want to do. So we're learning, we're getting better, but I think that the main thing is that we've got a pretty good glue. It's kind of like John up in PA. His group is, solid 15, 20 people. And for us, our 2 clubs here in Saskatchewan, we feel that's great that we started at the same time, and, we can have close to 30 lifters doing the sport, especially in the winter when it's really cold out here. So it gives us something to do. But our sport, like I said, we've hosted three events now, and we feel comfortable, and we've got a good system in place, and that's where we feel like we can help from the administration part as we grow the league.
Do you encourage a rivalry between you guys in PA?
Well, I would love it, but John's team
just too nice of a guy.
John's just such a nice guy, and the other thing is that they mostly do doubles, and we were mostly doing one arm. So now it's a little bit better because
they meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, his guys, his guys and girls are starting to do one arm stuff and also starting to do biathlon, and so and ours are doing doubles and biathlons now. So I think it's nice that we have that. We've never even ever had an in-house event, which between the 2 of us, which is I think is bizarre, but they've always been very supportive of our events. John was away, obviously surfing. If you follow him on Instagram, he's surfing in Costa Rica, so he was a little stressed, but to have one of his lifters on the platform with Charlie and Todd, lifted 24s, I thought was just amazing. And he did well. He represented himself well, and he represented PA Core well. And so as John's all his lifters do, right? And I think John's getting his team ready to go to nationals. And, and Carissa was grilling them about coming to Victoria. So the one thing about this sport is, if you go out and help or attend other people's sports, you usually get that, or events, you get that back. And that's the great thing about this community of kettlebells.
Well, I so much appreciate you taking the time to talk about all this stuff with me. I won't keep you any longer.
You. Yeah. But, thank you, Solly, and hopefully we can get you guys on the board here. And I'd love to have Nanaimo as a stop on the circuit one day.
Well, I'm sure we can set that up without much problem. So there's, I'm open to anything, and like you said, it's only going to help to develop the lifters, and that's what I do day to day, day in, day out. Is I try to keep growing the sport just like you. So.
Yeah, no, it's awesome, and I appreciate you having us on. And again, I can't wait to see you guys again. And sorry you guys couldn't make it this weekend, but I think you guys would have enjoyed it. And hopefully, we can get you at Carissa's in November. And if anyone's interested, our information is on the Facebook page. National Development Comps or National DC is our Instagram, but our website is getting worked on, and we will promote that a lot. But
where can people look for updates until then?
On the Facebook page, National Development Camps. We are putting stuff on there regularly. Once the website gets up and our Instagram gets going, our Instagram is going, but once it all gets connected, then right now we actually have. It's amazing to me. We have a lot of European followers, so I don't know if it's something that they're interested in as well. I mean, for me, man, wouldn't that be great if we had some of the best lifters in Europe and the United States and Canada coming to these events to compete? I think that'd just be awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, with the right people, I think you can get them over here. There's always a few who are willing to travel, so it's just a shame that we're so far away.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Yeah.
Anyways, thanks for coming on, Mike, and I'll be talking to you again.
All right.
All right, man.
Thanks, Sully.
Yeah, no problem. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.